Hi, I'm Stephanie and I created a movement called Altogether Beautiful. I created Altogether Beautiful to help women be their authentic self. And when they do, they become bold, confident, and courageous. I started Altogether Beautiful at a time where I didn't feel like I was equipped to lead at all. It was really other women around me who were really encouraging me and empowering me to tell my story because they felt like it would help other women, and that's really how it got started. One of the women who inspired me was actually another teacher I worked with at our kids' Christian school. I need to shout out Donna Jackson because you really made a difference in my life and you continue to. And I would go into her office and just vent, and she would listen to me, and she would always tell me stories about when she was raising her boys who were older than my kids, so to encourage me to stay on track and to tell my story. And she did it with a sense of boldness and confidence, like this. It was truth. It was like inherent truth. She wasn't questioning it at all. So it helped me not to question what I felt the Holy Spirit was telling me to do because she was so confident in what she was telling me. I've really struggled with finding my worth and my identity and my purpose from other people and what they thought of me. And that went well when people thought highly of me, but when things started to crumble and people didn't necessarily agree with what I was doing or approve of me anymore or see value in me anymore, then I lost value in myself. And so I started Altogether Beautiful really off of many encouragements and prayer, but one thing that I was told was that God pulled me out of the muck and that I was gonna pull other women out too. So in the church, I didn't grow up in the church, but one of the things I realized once I started going was that it's very clear what you're supposed to say and what you're not supposed to say. And I knew how to do that pretty well, but I felt like there were so many issues that I was dealing with that nobody was talking about. And I felt that outside of my Christian circle, that's where the safe place was to talk about these things, but not in church necessarily. And if I was to bring it up in church, I had to say it in a certain way to be accepted or to still be looked at as like a good Christian woman. So issues like pornography that came up, it always, not always, but a lot of the times address where, what do you do if your husband's struggling with pornography? And it always had something to do with a man, and then you as a woman were sort of dealing with their transgression. But what happens when it's you? What happens when it's your girlfriend? Or as a mother, as a woman, it's just a dirty thing for us, and it's a shameful thing. And so no, I don't feel that anybody's talking about it. What do we do as women walking in this culture that's highly sexual? And how do we carry ourselves without feeling ashamed? And how do we talk about those things in the church as far as dating, sex, pornography, relationships? How do we address what's really going on rather than have to sort of dumb it down to make sure that we're accepted by other people? And in the Bible, it talks about how darkness cannot survive when light is shined on it, right? And so if we're not talking about these things, then the devil has his way with us because he can back us in a corner in the dark, in silence. And I don't know about you, but I've made some of the biggest mistakes when I was not talking to anybody about what was going on in my head, when I didn't feel like it was acceptable, and when I feel like I sort of had to run away from the Lord and church people in order to deal with what was going on. And so I think that it's a lie to believe that we have to clean ourselves up in order to go to church people, and because that's what the enemy wants. And that's when he's had his way with me, is when I'm not talking, when I feel ashamed, and when I feel like in order to keep up this Christian image that I have, I can't talk about these things. And I need to sort of clean those things up before I can then talk to people in an authentic way. So one of the things that I struggled with looking for encouragement, whether it was through preaching or books, is that it always felt like when women were telling their story, they had come out of it already. And I've had a tough time because when you're in it, when you're in the darkness, you don't necessarily want to hear about someone else feeling empowered once they're out. You want to know what to do now. And so one of the things that I've struggled with is how to walk out how to walk out my walk with the Lord as a single woman. And struggling with, what do I do with my sexuality? How do I view myself? How do I feel beautiful without sort of getting my self-worth from some of the things I used to, attention from men, the way I looked, if I was sort of measuring up to what was going on social media, if my body looked a certain way. Because growing up, I didn't feel like a cute kid. I was sort of a chubby kid. And so once I hit teenage years, I realized that men liked the way I looked. So now I get my worth from that. And that carried it's something I still struggle with. So just being able to say, just because you find Jesus doesn't mean that the enemy hasn't been programming these lies since you were just like a little kid. And I now see that daily he's giving me those messages. And how do I know who I am if I'm not in the Word, talking this out with other people and telling people about that? Because how many days have we gone through we just believe the tapes and the lies, and we don't realize that the enemy is just like program our mind to believe that lie that he probably inserted when we were 1, 2, 3 years old. One of the things I've noticed is that when I have gone outside without makeup on, people are like, "Oh, are you tired? Are you okay?" And I'm like, "No, this is what I look like. This is me." And so when we do that to people, especially to other women, what we're telling them is like, this is not quite what I am expecting from you, and I need you to clean it up a little bit. And so I'm someone who enjoys makeup. I enjoy extensions. I enjoy putting myself together. But I also want to know that I'm just as worthy and beautiful when I don't. So what does that look like? Makeup on the other side is like the tear coming down, and that the exposure is actually the beauty. Alicia Keys talks about this, about like when you see yourself without makeup, I went through a phase where like I don't even want to look at myself without makeup.
To feel, yeah.
Yes, yep. So it's not even other people. It was like even to walk around my own house, I felt like to feel pretty, yeah, that I wasn't enough just the way that I look. I'm working on a book called Bearing It All. And it's really a devotional or small group study on 30 days of taking off the mask, highlighting that it's in our authentic self, in our realness, that's where the beauty is, right? That's where the power is. That's when the transformation comes from. It's when we're really ourselves, and then we can walk in that. And that's our true beauty. And that there's nothing wrong with putting yourself together, but also the beauty really shines through when you know that who you are in your brokenness, in your mess, in the things that you're still working through, that you haven't come out of yet, that you're not even sure if you will, that God still looks at you as altogether beautiful, that there's no flaw in you.